Episode 2. From up on a hill that towered above the treetops, Saku looked down at the camp. Fire had been put out and the flap of the tent had been closed. She held out the skull so it could see, feeling completely silly while doing it. But Kamo had complained after being in the pocket for too long. After walking down from the hill, she carefully crept towards the camp, dust swirling in the air above her. "You must be asleep or something," she whispered to the skull, now back in her pocket. "Stop talking before he hears you," the skull said. She heard a snap. She threw Kamo in the direction the sound had come from. His face slid in the dirt until he once again was facing her. "Hey," he shouted with a twinge of hurt in his voice. "I may be dead, but my feelings aren't yet. I am not a weapon." "You had it coming," she said. Her eyes darted around back to the tent, as if she expected him to come out of it. He didn't. After a few moments, she went to Kamo and picked him back up again. "He's gone," she said, still looking around. "Why would he leave?" Saku carefully approached the tent and slowly opened the flap. The skull screamed. Saku dropped the cover, then paused and slowly turned. Kamo might have been smiling if he had lips instead of a bone beak. "You fell for that?" Kamo asked. "You scare easily." Saku threw the skull into the soft dirt. After, she noticed all the items that had once been inside the tent were now gone, including the tea. But the katana lay in the middle, seemingly waiting for her. She approached the sword and knelt down. Why would Ayashi leave this? "That man is crazy, Kamo." "Not as crazy ugly as that dress he was wearing," he said. "I'm telling you, I have the same dress. Why does a duck even have an opinion on what I wear? How are we supposed to find Ayashi now? I need to get that tea back. He could be anywhere." "If you want my advice," Kamo said, "burn the dress. That's not a good color for your skin tone. If you want more of my advice, let's head to the city. If Ayashi is unhinged as he looks, someone will know about him and where he is." Saku cursed. "Why do I keep talking to you? You aren't real. I don't know how to get to the city. Ayashi said he was going to take me." "He totally wasn't going to take you," said Kamo. She muttered some unkind words under her breath before saying, "I know that now." "If I could see the mountains and all this dust, I could point you in the right direction," Kamo said. "You're going to Shaosong like the others, right? There's a lady near an apple tree there who used to make great pickles. I used to go with some of my friends. We'd get high up in the tree so we could see when she was washing her clothes. Then we'd knock over the clay pots and enjoy the good eating." "Wait, you know how to get the Shaosong because you eat pickles?" She shook her head. "Yeah, you are not real. I am nuts. Mibu can never know that I drank the tea. She'd never speak to me again." Saku turned to look high up at the trees. She put the skull in her pocket and grabbed onto the bark. Soon she climbed far up enough to reach the sturdy branches. Though sore, she managed to make it to the top. Still, dust covered the sky. Kamo began complaining about the darkness of the pocket when Saku grabbed him and tossed him as high into the air as she could. She expected the skull to fall straight down, but she could see nothing past the leaves of the tree. Suddenly, he fell from the dusty air into her vision. She leaned out as far as she could and reached for the skull. Her finger caught his eye hole. "You jerk!" he screamed. "You almost shattered me. Stop dropping me." "I'm sorry." She climbed down the tree. "I figured you'd be able to see if I got you up high enough." "I did. The mountains are to our left, so we need to keep heading straight up the river. The dust should clear with those wind currents, but no more throwing me." "No promises, but I'll try," she said. "I never expected a school person to act like this. Have some respect. I shouldn't have to tell you that." "Well, if by some miracle you actually do leave me the Shaosong, and I'm not just standing in the middle of the forest talking to myself, I'll consider it," Saku said. She searched around the camp for anything else she might need on her journey, but only found a water container. She filled it by the river and headed towards the city. There was no moon that night, and a layer of dust blanketed the horizon. She squinted in the dark and held her hands in front of her as she walked through the forest. Her palm hit a tree as her knees hit a sharp, thorny bush. She cursed. I can't see anything, which means there's no city here, Kamo. I shouldn't have listened to you, Saku shouted at the skull. Oh? What's that up ahead? He said. She noticed the dim lights in the distance. As they approached, the night sky cleared, revealing a city illuminated by scattered, decorated paper lanterns. Banners waved out in front of shops, and people in brightly colored kimonos chatted amongst themselves. The scent of cut grass and newly built doors and walls overwhelmed Saku. She had never seen buildings taller than trees before. You got lucky, she told the skull. All cities are built by water. I'm sure I knew that. This means nothing. I was right. You have to believe me now, he said. She held the skull higher towards the shops, still busy with people. What is everyone doing out so late at night? Don't they have work in the morning? They're buying stuff, the skull said. What, you don't buy stuff? With the money that you make growing all that tea all day? Saku suddenly realized others could hear and see her talking to the skull. She put it away in her upper right pocket. Hey, I was talking, the skull said. I can't keep talking to you, she said. I'll look not normal. So, the skull said back. Kamo's voice now sounded muffled to the fabric of Saku's pocket. Everyone is crazy in the city. The crazier you are, the more power you have. If I get caught, Saku began to say. She noticed a young girl with light brown hair and a patched-together blue kimono staring at her. Saku looked away and whispered, That kid sees us. The castle finds out I'm here without the tea. Look what you... The child ran up to Saku and tugged at her pocket. Is that a talking skull? The kid said, lifting up on her toes to speak to the foreign person. You never talk to your pocket for fun? Saku tried to hurry away from the child, but she followed her behind a pushcart selling dried fish and clay-cooked sweet potatoes. We don't have pockets, the child said. Are you friends of Oniku? A boy in an old kimono with a blue cap ran to her and used his arm to push the girl back. She swatted away the arm. Leave her alone, sister. They don't like to talk when they're not working at the freak show. Saku gently squeezed Kamo, as if she were asking him what she should do. Kamo responded, laughing. Tell her. What's the worst that can happen? Those people ducklings aren't going to tell anyone. Saku sighed, then smiled slightly at the young girl still filled with excitement. Okay, Saku said in a whisper. She put a finger to her lips. I am Saku, of the Pocket People. Tell Oniku she should do more tricks and talk less. Her brother's face soured from annoyance. He picked up his sister and carried her over his shoulders. But I wanted one of those skull flowers they were selling, she said. Boy did not respond and kept walking. She waved to Saku, who waved back. Until the boy stopped in the middle of the street. Someone was coming. The skull laughed violently from inside her pocket. They thought you were part of a Misemono freak show. The streets grew quiet. A man in iron and leather armor laced together with red wool appeared with a torch in hand. He wore a caputo with a gold-trimmed visor around the helmet. With his other hand, he revealed a piece of paper with the word wanted in their tongue. Another scholar has gone missing, the man spoke. The regent wishes for them to be found and brought to the castle immediately. 50 coins will be given for her capture. Alive, unless she is without the shipment, then he will accept her head. Search the outskirts. The memory of Mibu telling her not to talk came to her mind. She disappeared into a closed, unlit shop away from the commotion in the streets, but not before seeing the boy and the girl approach the soldier. Saku squatted down behind the wooden counter beneath stacked white ramen bowls with blue trim. The world was silent, and shadows of the people standing too afraid to move fluttered on the transparent rice paper wall. Great, they know I'm here because I listened to you. What is a Misemono and how do we get there? Why don't you know anything? That's where you can go to see famous weird people. I once saw a dragon mummy there. At least that's what they were telling everyone was behind the wrapping. Let me get this straight, Saku. You are now planning to go up to a bunch of famous people off the street and hope they tell you what to do. Saku let out a puff of air. I have a better idea, Kamo. I'm going to do nothing and just stand here. They paused. Well, that's not protective at all, the skull said. It's not, but that was our only other option and we tried it. So shut up and let me handle this. They have to know who would steal tea leaves there. Oniku might be able to help. She might know how to get rid of this tea illness so I can stop talking to myself. Good luck with that, Kamo said, as he was placed back in the Saku's pocket. She left the shop through the back door in the kitchen next to the fire pit, passing a wooden tray with leftover noodles. Incense sticks placed nearby burned. Its smoke rose up towards the sky. They traveled past a bridge that towered over a dried-up river that led to a plaza. Reed walls hung around the carnival perimeter, surrounded by posts to block off the outside world. She found the entrance and exchanged a palm full of rice for admission. A man with a large straw hat and face paint accepted the payment and motioned them inside. He watched her, not blinking, as she wandered into the masses of spectators. Hey, Kamo, Saku said. Those people, ducklings back there, called each other brother and sister. Is that normal here? Why ask me? I'm just a crazy hallucination, the skull said. What do you mean, is that normal? Being allowed to know who your family is, she said, out in the open, being seen with them. Pretty sure that's a common people's thing. Not in my village, she said, looking down. We aren't even allowed to have relationships without Conqueror's approval. Something about seeing the children together had tugged at her soul. Oh, well, I'm not a people's expert, Kamo said. Singing filled the air inside the bright bazaar-like atmosphere. A woman dressed as a samurai danced and sung on stage around vendor carts and stalls. Nearby, a man held a pair of scissors in the air shouting, "Get your haircuts here, ponytails half off." Contestants played with blow darts at booths, trying to hit a circle on a piece of parchment. Grass huts and a main stage crafted from bamboos had signs above them such as, "Large bird swallows hot coals here," or "It's a real camel, 1 coin." From carts and booths, workers in tattered clothes took down signs and put away items, such as handmade dolls and painted pieces of wood with characters on them. Oniku. Saku pointed to a sign in the far end of the stage, lit in a very dark blue lantern light. She lowered her head and made her way across the Misemono, through the crowds, bypassing the stage, trying to hide behind the huts as much as she could. To her dismay, the Oniku booth had a rope with the sign attached, closed. You want to buy a doll? You heard a deep voice behind her. She turned and grabbed the skull in her pocket. The sword swung against her arm as she did. Whoa now, the voice said. The towering man came to stand in front of Saku, with his large bulging muscles. He had a very pronounced forehead and 2 large bumps that almost looked like horns. We don't need violence here. Oh! She pulled the sword off her shoulder and held the handle so it pointed downward. I'm not attacking anyone. You scared me. Scare you? You are the one who came here with the weapon. You shouldn't have even been let in. I don't know who you are, she said. He's Oni-chan, the skull said in a high-pitched voice. I am Oni-chan, he said, not hearing the skull, or not responding to it if he did. We are closing as soon as the performance is finished. We open tomorrow. It's half price for you little ones. He squinted at Saku. He observed her for a moment before looking to her pockets. Little one, I'm an adult. I'm looking for Ayashi. He took something from me, she said. Sure you are, he winked. I know nothing of any Ayashi, or any of the other words that came out of your mouth. Have a good night. He looked again to Saku's pocket. He looked in amazement. Hello, my face is up here, Saku said. You are one of the scholars, aren't you? He said. I am from Fukui, she said. You know you just called me a slur, right? Hard R and everything? Forgive me, he said. I'm from the old generation. Why are you here? I'm guessing it's not to see the camel. I need to get a bag back from a Ronin named Ayashi before someone finds out I'm here without the regent's goods. Also, I hear there's another here who has pockets who might be able to help with an issue I'm having. I'm glad you're saying this out in the open, Saku, so everyone knows you're here. Good thinking, Kamo said from the pocket. Oni-chan looked down in disappointment. The show is over. Go home. No, I demand to see Oniku, Saku said. He looked at her blankly. No, you do not understand. You can't be here. She squinted her eyes. A little girl told me you were selling flowers that were once grown in my village. Someone here knows something about them. Unless you are scamming people by selling fake flowers. He raised his hands in defense. Hey now, I'm trying to help you out. They are fake. Don't accuse me of selling those flowers they have by the castle if that's what you are meaning. Anything we sell is purely symbolic and not the flower itself. Do you know what the punishment is for getting caught with one of those things? Show me what you are selling then, she said, not knowing what the flowers look like. I'm not going to do that, he sighed. I tried. Leave now, or I am calling Kappa over here to have you removed. Saku turned to the last remaining people slowly making their way out of the carnival. She cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted as loud as she could. Fraud! That's not a real camel. That's a mountain whale in disguise. You have no proof. Stop spreading lies. He tried to step out in front of her, but she went on. Who needs proof? I can yell whatever I want, she said. That Lord Yataku wants your head? Should you be shouting? Kamo said. Oni-chan saw people starting to notice the commotion. The large man gently pushed Saku aside and cupped his hand over her ear and whispered, You are letting everyone know you are here. You know you are wanted. I will keep shouting until I get what I want, she said. Oni-chan frowned and addressed the remaining crowd. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow. He winked and smiled. He turned back to Saku. I was afraid this day would come. I will take you to Oniku, but I think it might be a waste of time. I feel you are going to insist. Pretty much, yeah, Saku said. Follow me. He motioned with his hand towards a large building across the way. The candles released a faint, sweet smell that lingered in the hut. There was an opening that led into what had been a stable but now served as a storage room for Peach baby dolls for Momotaro's long-lost relative. Saku felt herself gripping at the sword. Oni-chan appeared from behind a giant water barrel, now wearing a black cloak with a large hood. Oniku is not here, he said. But I am going to perform to you the very act she gives nightly. His voice came out sheepish. Saku thought he looked embarrassed. He picked up a fake skull and began to speak to it. Well, hello there, Jasato. His voice rose to that of a convincing woman. He used the skull like a puppet. He spoke in a weird accent that made the puppet seem very unsophisticated. Golly, Madam Oniku, I done hadn't seen you all day. You done drunk some tea, didn't you, Miss Oniku? That's the only time you talk back. I always drink my crazy tea right before. Saku cursed loudly and stuck out her hand. That's enough. Oni-chan stopped, still holding the skull in mid-sentence. Is that what everyone thinks we are? She said. We worked so hard for you, and that's it. You make fun of us for something most of us haven't done in 100 years. Oni-chan looked down. That's only what they have been told about you. I do not mean to be offensive. I do this act to make a living, nothing more. Saku fought back tears, thinking of all the long days and extra nights she had put in to ensure that shipments could be made in time. You knowingly made fun of my people. For profit. That's disgusting. She turned away and looked down to the floor, watching the shadows from the Peach Baby dolls. Oni-chan put down his skull. I never thought of it that way. I'm here to make a living. Sometimes that hurt others, so yes. The flowers we sell are fake. I've never seen a real pocket person who has partaken of the flower tea. They do not exist. I need to find a Yashi. I need to get it back and deliver to Lord Yataku before they do something to me. Or Mibu, she said. Oni-chan put his hand on his chin and thought. I still do not know any Ayashis, but look for the Makiyako in the market district. The commoners who patrol the city will be gathered there, out eating after their shifts. If there is a Ronin here, one of them will know. I will retire the Oniku Act. A woman with scales for skin poked her head through the door, panting. Lord Yataku is here. Someone saw the scholar yelling during the show. What do we... The lady spotted Saku and cleared her throat. I mean, skull person. Get out of here, Oni-chan said sternly, pointing to the back of the hut. Push aside the wall before he finds you. Moments after crawling through the secret opening, she heard someone burst into the hut, followed by a hand smack. The voice rang out, loud and angry. Where is she? It said. Someone must have been mistaken, Saku heard Oni-chan say. There is no... Something or someone struck Oni-chan hard, over and over. Grunted out in pain, gasping, spitting. Bring this hideous liar to the castle, he said, seemingly to others who had entered the room. Saku felt a hand on her shoulders. She jumped. This way, the man with the straw hat said. When Saku left that night, creeping past royal guards who surrounded the Misemono, she left with an Oni-chan doll and a mermaid handbag that had been given to her on the way out by the man who took her admission. They made their way into the night towards the market district. That Oni-chan really went all out for you. I wouldn't get beat up for you, Kamo said. And, by the way, I thought the act was pretty funny. Saku, despite how she felt, didn't fling the skull into the sky in the middle of the night, but did give it a whack on the top of its head with her index finger. The shops had closed for the night on the streets, and only a few lanterns were lit. Because of this, a vast array of stars hovered above Saku. She stared at them, as she often did when it was clear, and wondered. I thought I'd find help here. There is no help. I'm on my own, and I cannot fail. I'm going to find a way to free Oni-chan. I won't allow anyone else to get hurt because of me. I mean, I got us here, Kamo said. I'd call that helping. Yes, I told you to tell the ducklings who you were, so I did mess up, but you had a shouting match that let everyone know where we were, so maybe we should call it even. Saku found herself smiling at this. Okay, I'll admit, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe you are real. Saku found herself smiling at this. She wiped it off her face as soon as she heard screaming. She looked to see where the noise was coming from. Isn't that where we're going? Kamo asked. She kept walking towards the screams. Her pace quickened.